Good morning, Doctor, once again. And yeah, as I say, Anopeno, Wababeka Yensa.
Good morning.
Doctor, a friend of Dr. Shelley, we are a physician specialist, cardiology fellow in training. Now, yeah, the back also straight away because a banner area, the announce adaje ni honum kra. Yeah, cardiovascular diseases are a thing.
Okay, good morning to your listeners. So mainly, cardiovascular diseases you can't fa yarewa efa akoma no ene blood vessels ede moja bre akoma na anaasɛ vessels ɛfiri akoma no mu kɔ the rest of the body. So yakoma no ɛyɛ muscle. It's like the biggest pump in your body. Nti ɛgye moja ɛfiri nipadua ne baabiara hɔ after mogya no akɔ nipadua no mu na nipadua no use mogya no carry oxygen, carry glucose, carry nutrients nipadua no hia for us to be alive. Nti no nipadua no use mogya no awie no, it has to return it to the heart for the heart to oxygenate the blood and then send it back to the rest of the body. So your cardiovascular system, you can akoma no plus blood vessels if you akoma no, any blood vessels akoma no pumping moja free mo to distribute to the rest of the body.
Okay. Nti na kyerɛ sɛ akɔma no akɔyɛ te sɛ engine no a ɛsi nipadua no mu no because ɔno na ɔgye blood no ɛsɛn de ɛkɔ back to yɛn nyinaa nim sɛ nipa akɔma deɛ ɛyɛ one pɛ ɛna ɛda ɔmu nti adan na yɛwɔ cardiovascular diseases na ɛnyɛ cardiovascular diseases bɛn ɛna yɛwɔ.
Great. Nti because we share this network of vessels here, ɛkɔ baabi ɛkɔ wo tirim, ɛkɔ wo adwene mu, ɛkɔ wo kidneys mu, ɛkɔ wo nan, nsa vessels no mogya ne fam no ɛkɔ baabi nti te sɛ ebi obi nya stroke say even though in the strict sense of the word yɛbɛka sɛ stroke yɛ a neuro problem no, it is still a cardiovascular problem because a blood vessel na ɛwɔ utrim mu no ɛna ɛnya problem na wanya stroke. So cardiovascular disease is a very broad term. So vessels ɛkɔ wadwin mu, ɛkɔ kidneys mu, ɛkɔ akoma nankasa mu. Akoma nanso wɔ no anso ne vessels feed no. Even though it pumps blood everywhere no. And also wɔ no anso ne vessels. They say vessels ɛma akoma no. Akoma na ɔyɛ adwuma all the time. Ɛma ne ho no. Ɔno nso ne vessels na feed no get it blocked. That's when you have a heart attack.
Okay.
So it's like every system is fed by blood vessels. So if there's any problem with the heart or any of the vessels now, moja FM to the other parts of the body now, all those abnormalities are termed cardiovascular diseases.
Okay. And you know, cardiovascular diseases in angasa no say you can say ye bubu mu a diseases by angasa and to say okay say stroke can be related and I say is related to cardiovascular activities and I say inactivity no diseases by na owa e betimi aka say this falls under cardiovascular disease.
It's a bit me breaking it down system by system. And if we take the heart alone, if the vessels of the blood are blocked, not patient in your heart attack, that's a falls under cardiovascular disease.
Okay.
If obi were uncontrolled hypertension, over time, and then the heart is not able to work well, and then the person goes into heart failure, a cardiovascular disease. If sometimes because of very high blood pressures, even the vessels now, akomane pump blood into, sometimes the vessels can tear.
Okay.
They fall under cardiovascular disease. And this is just within the environment of the heart and its surrounding vessels. If at the level of the kidneys, will be poorly controlled hypertension or diabetes are any well controlled over 5-10 years, none the kidneys touch him as a result of it, it all falls under cardiovascular diseases.
Okay.
If BP is uncontrolled or stroke or cholesterol, or hypertension or high blood cholesterol or sugar or diabetes, the control you're poor. na vessels na ɛwɔ n'akyiri mu no mo blocking na onya stroke anaasɛ vessel ne pae na bleed na onya stroke a ne nyinaa still ɛyɛ under cardiovascular diseases. Sɛ obi ɛwɔ diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol na ne nan the peripheries won't say crotimi to obi nan engu a ne akotwa ne nan ne nyinaa fall under cardiovascular diseases. So cardiovascular diseases are very broad.
Okay. And to maybe say ewo Ghana hano, what are some of the most common cardiovascular diseases mutumi enya treatment?
Okay. So about no cardiovascular diseases now, there are risk factors and then the complications of the risk factors.
Okay.
So your risk factors are the cardiovascular diseases the ones we can do something about, and then the ones we cannot do anything about. So one, by reason of the fact that we are all aging, and that's the concept of entropy. Day in, day out, we are getting older. As you are aging, your risk increases.
Okay.
And then ethnicity. The mere fact that by 40 and above, your risk increases of getting. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing. We tend to have a whole aggregation of risk factors are in favor.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think a lot of it too probably has to do with a lot of environmental a lot of your personal habits also come into question, our health consciousness and all that. Compared to the developed world, we tend to lag behind kakra. So it's, let's say, so we're talking about hypertension, diabetes, and the like. Those ones, they are modifiable.
Okay.
They are modifiable. You can't do anything about it. You are black, you can't do anything about it. Past 40, your risk increases. But the ones you can do something about, inactiveness, checking our weight, our cholesterol levels, our sugar levels, our blood pressure levels, our level of activity. Our intake of fruits and vegetables and the like, living a healthy lifestyle, maintaining a healthy weight. Those are things we can do something about. So we have these ones we really cannot do much about, and then the ones we can do something about. But if all these factors come into play, now they are not well controlled, not the complications emerge. That is when, so the complications are when we've had the strokes, when people have gone blind because of diabetes or hypertension, when people have had heart attacks, when people have had heart failures because of hypertension, when people have had kidney damage because of hypertension or diabetes. But commonly in our environment, the leading cause, hypertension.
Okay.
Hypertension. Yes.
A year cholesterol. Me angasa me experience. Emre bi mo na me weigh 65.
Okay.
And now I tend to, I think say just about 2 years ago na me jaye because of abrabo. Every year biano, either a week to my birthday or a week after my birthday, no me call for general checkup. And sometimes me weigh 65, but my cholesterol was really high. Me so me has a cholesterol, my weigh kesiye. And how come say na me my phone, but my cholesterol was high.
Okay. So the your body size per se, you know, it can be very deceptive. You can have obi or very slim with very, very high cholesterols. And you can have obi or with cholesterols that are normal or borderline high. And you can't look at nipano on the outside to say we also necessarily the cholesterol very high. It's how the formation of cholesterol comes about.
Okay.
So there's cholesterol that your body makes naturally, and then there's cholesterol that is as a result of what you take into your body. Okay. And then there are even this group of people are naturally in their families, their cholesterols are super high.
Wow.
They just their bodies tend to over synthesize. So you may see a very young, slim somebody and their cholesterols are crazy high. So there's a concept of familial hypercholesterolemia.
Okay.
So there are these genetic abnormalities amongst people.
Okay.
But then you can't use a person's body habitus. It depends on what the liver itself is synthesizing, and then how much of it you are also taking in by way of
Okay.
your ingestion as an
First, in
individual.
a cardiovascular disease, I agree say will be in a heart attack. Even the difference between heart attack and heart failure, no, then. Minya heart attack, send me heart in failure, and there is a difference.
Okay, not necessarily. Okay, so senior medi can say the heart itself is a pump. The moja ko baby, but also when the blood vessels are feeding. No. So if the blood vessels now a feeding a command no, over time as a result of hypertension, diabetes near day, portions of it get narrowed over time, narrowing. So you have cholesterol getting deposited, all sorts of things getting deposited. Now you have narrowing of certain portions. Narrowing, you do a certain critical point. Flow beyond that point to the rest of it, the heart gets compromised.
Okay.
It is a twasso, you get to a critical point, be a one day, something bad will happen, and then there's a rupture or an erosion, and then a horn gets almost cut off.
Okay.
So once it cuts off, what happens to that
The
portion
rest,
now? It was moja found, the rest of the heart now was moja cohort. It will begin to die.
Okay.
So then Rebecca said you've suffered a heart attack.
Okay.
So there's been an acute obstruction to the flow of blood.
Okay.
Because where flow goes, it means that life continues.
Yeah.
Flow and go, we are in trouble.
Okay.
So that's when we say, you've suffered a heart attack.
Okay.
It means there's been an acute
attack.
block in
Okay.
the supply to the heart.
Okay.
But heart failure, dear, when we say the heart has failed, the heart can fail in its ability to pump forward.
Okay.
I said the heart is a muscle. It's also a pump. It can get weak over time. It can get weak because of long-standing hypertension factors. A year weaker. I feel there. So I was say pump it forward at let's say 55%. We have a grading system for how a normal heart should pump. Okay. If it's pumping at 25%, then you can imagine the heart is fatigued. Into me, as it should. Then all the problems begin to emerge. So at that stage, we say the heart has failed. Sometimes when a pumping action is normal, it is pumping at 50+%, but the heart is not able to relax to receive blood. So it must relax to receive blood and then pump the blood.
Okay.
As a member, are very stiff. How can you take it? So the heart must relax to receive blood and then pump blood to the rest of the body. So when the heart cannot relax well enough or cannot pump well enough, then we're saying that the heart has failed.
Okay.
In its function.
Heart attack, any heart failure, no. They are why na ekum nipa.
Both can kill. So the heart attack can be a very acute emergency. The heart failure too can be a very acute emergency. Let's say hypertension over time, forward row, and then one day you are rushed to the emergency, you BP number 250 something. So it's like the heart has to pump against this very high resistance, and then suddenly your heart fails. It means that it's not able to overcome such high resistance now. That is an acute emergency. The heart can fail as a result of the uncontrolled hypertension because the pressures are so high. Similarly, when your heart attack suddenly in so, depending on the portion of the heart now, what's a blood flow to now cut off, the portion that you have lost, the heart can fail.
And you know, I think I want to understand, say, heart failure, any heart attack. The one I bet me a son.
So nina yeso anu a heart attack can lead to a heart failure.
Okay. Can a heart failure lead to heart attack?
So commonly you can have a heart attack leading to a heart failure.
Okay.
So a heart failure leading to a heart attack, it is possible, remotely possible, in that I don't know. It gets a little more technical. If especially if it's the relaxation kind, when I feel it gets to the point where relaxing to even get blood to its own vessels that supply its blood becomes a problem. You can suffer. Heart can develop. You can develop as a result of insufficiency of supply to the heart itself because of reduced forward flow.
Okay.
You can have some myocardial injury.
Some of the cardiovascular diseases are wabble, so stroke, hypertension, diabetes, any idea no. I want to believe say there are signs. Maybe amount. Say these are the symptoms. If you go hospital, no more show with symptoms. Near there, will test near don't be who said this is what you are suffering. Now heart attack, any heart failure. Omoma symptoms be omoma warnings be a unya. I was all copying who it as ADNA.
Okay, so heart failure, heart attacks, they don't occur in isolation. So you must have risk factors. I know you're very important. There must be risk factors. So the ones we mentioned. Sometimes our hearts are gated by what we call valves that open and close as the heart pumps and relaxes. Okay, so if let's say usakra no oyare money affect a valve no but unim years down the line the heart can fail because the valve is not opening well or the valve is just flip-flopping around.
Okay.
So when it comes to heart failure, heart attack, so you must, let's start with the biggest risk factor in our setting, hypertension. Most of the time, it will not give you any symptoms. That is why it is very, very important that we check our blood pressures periodically, most of the time.
Periodically need to say saying every week, every day, every month, every year.
Maybe.
And I said
so you a bet. So let's say a positive family history. Let's say your mom is hypertensive or your dad is hypertensive. A first degree relative is hypertensive. Okay. Once you undo 40 crown, you should know say your risk is higher.
Okay.
Because there's someone in your background who has it, or someone has diabetes, one of your parents or a sibling has it. Then a set health consciousness, I mean, 110 and rising very high up.
Okay.
So then you would want to check your numbers maybe every 6 months or yearly, have a physical just to see where your numbers are. Because most of the time, hypertension ain't no clue. When you are fortunate, next start to say a mouth clue, then maybe headaches because your blood pressures are high. Yeah, do baby palpitations kakra. Tisa wakuma bo pri kakra na ejai pri kakra na ejai. E do baby aso wani so echin kakra na ejai, echin kakra na ejai. So and I say sometimes you may have a bit of chest pain, it may go away, or your vision can get a bit blurred, and then it will resolve. Those are when it's giving you signs, but most of the time it will not. That's for hypertension. And then for diabetes too, and also especially the type 2, the lifestyle mediated type no. It bet me for a long time. Most of the time, by the time we diagnose type 2 diabetes, no. Now I started kanya madada. Then by then, when you start having symptoms, it means that complications are setting in. Ona se shisho, ona ya yo titri, o junso bebre, o no monsio bebre, o so te, I say, who did more, the more I did in the more I often. Then by then you know, say, those are very florid signs are they mouth say something is incubating.
Then heart health. A idea Ghana you're taking it seriously.
Well, not in my estimation. I think we have a very long way to go.
Will begin to pay attention to our heart. I be a nyoma ne health, you know. So ne be fine your body.
Okay. So general measures now are the ones I spoke about, but then particularly at this point, I would like to use this opportunity to emphasize a few things. Okay. So the modifiable things that we spoke about, there we can do something about. Now, hypertension, okay, is the number one killer here. Back cardiovascular disease, and people are dying more from strokes than anything else in our part of the world, and kidney disease. And it's killing a lot of young people. Okay, so what ba clinic? You catch say, hypertension, especially the men. You tell them they have hypertension, you put them on antihypertensives, and their willy is more important to them than their very lives.
Why do the medications affect the willy?
Well, so there's this general concept out there. Say, obi piedroni the offer ebe kumobema. No, but then we keep telling them that look, there's a whole spectrum of medication available to us to treat hypertension. Inti say I do what be brain so that be so now you're having that problem. Feedback is always important. Let your doctor know. We can always switch you. because we tend to give medication along certain lines. We know medication are here, Juma, very well in blacks. So chances are, if you came to the hospital and you were diagnosed with hypertension, there are certain drugs we are likely to start you on. But if you have any problem with any of the drugs, get back to your doctor. Let him know. Oh, maybe Nyama and Koye or sometimes you investigate them and realize it's not even
about the medication.
It's not the medication. There's something else. We've had instances where people were developing diabetes, and it was the diabetes causing their erectile issues.
Okay.
And yet they attributed it to the BP drugs, and then they stopped taking the BP drugs. So that part is very, very important. We have a lot of men who are taking all sorts of aphrodisiacs and all sorts of stimulants and all sorts of performance enhancers, you know, and they are just not doing themselves any good. They are not doing themselves any good. So once you've been diagnosed, stick to your numbers, keep your reviews. For the one who hasn't been diagnosed, once you are 40, take your cardiovascular health seriously. Get screened. Quit smoking. If you smoke, please quit smoking. And let's reduce our salt intake. I think we take too much salt in our part of the world. Too much Kobe, too much momone, too much kako. Everything salted, we are in for. So our salt intake, we need to cut down on how much salt we are taking in on a daily. So the rule is don't add extra salt on the table. As much as possible. I mean, whilst it's within your ability. And regulate how much you are putting in. The salt is already in there. There's nothing much you can do about it. And then for the diabetes, you can get screened. Simple sugar checks every now and then can pick it up for you. And then we need to move. We need to move and then maintain an ideal body weight. Lots of intake of fruit and vegetables. Let's check our cholesterols every now and then. You can do it once a year to know what your numbers are. You can see a dietitian to help with the control of the diabetes. If the cholesterols, if they are very high, if your numbers are too high and we need to put you on medication, we will do so. So, I mean, I don't think we take heart health seriously enough. You see people going for jogging, keep fit. Post keep fit, we sit down to large boluses of food and meat, saturated fat. No, where are you going? The net effect. Because what you are putting in is probably even more than what you expended. It's a net effect, no? We're not quite negative. So you don't end up winning. So I think we need to adopt healthier lifestyles.
Doc, in Ghana, no, between a ma population and mema, one more suffer more cardiovascular diseases. And as a who answers our question, we are between a man and mema, no, what are the common ones that a differentiating man and mema? No?
So cardiovascular diseases, no, they tend to occur earlier in males in our part of the world. Very, very early in the males. Most women tend to have their issues later, as they get older. And I think sometimes to a health-seeking behavior on the part of women, and also contributes. Once you diagnose a woman with a certain cardiovascular condition, they are very conscientious. They'll keep their appointments. They will follow through. The same cannot be said of a lot of the men. I mean, a small percentage of them are very health conscious, but you don't tend to find that in the general male population. Some of them, even their wives have to drag them to facilities, health facilities to seek health care. So I think sometimes the health-seeking behavior and also feeds into what we tend to see. But generally, the women tend to present at an older age compared to the males.
Now, cardiovascular diseases, you know, the impact on Ghana population, world population, any of the aiding?
Huge. The impact is huge. So globally, no, cardiovascular diseases, the first 3 leading causes of death globally as a result of cardiovascular disease. That is, diseases are any as a result of infections. The 3 leading causes: heart attacks, strokes, and then clots in the lungs. These are all cardiovascular diseases, and they are killing more human beings than anything else on this planet.
Now that you've mentioned the clots, it is idea many DHA. Then a bed trigger, and I say a baby one new, say you could have clot.
So when it comes to clots, it tends, I say, air rising. You hear say young people, we any clots one in nine, we any clots one in lung. No. So basically speaking, no, the same mechanisms now. Those same complications, these strokes, atherosclerotic cardiovascular diseases, but those same problems, no, and them are these same clots for me.
Okay.
So, and the risk factors, no, tend to be a little more broader. So, spectrum of risk factors near more. So, let's say, obi ayare wada obe 1 month, you hospitalize you obi bear 1 month, or the person is not moving. Then stasis and all sorts of conditions are created in the vessels. Itimima clots for me.
Okay.
Sometimes when people go on very long flights, I mean, you are kind of like boxed in. You don't have the opportunity to really move around. Now you have that kind of predisposition in the vessels. Now, clots can form. One you're lucky, now clots not baby one, whether it's in your leg or in your pelvis. It move it to, and it can move suddenly. It move it suddenly into your lungs. It can just cut off flow. And then before you know it, you've lost the person. And you know, clots, no, as cardiovascular risk factors increase, and my clots so emerging more because the mechanisms that bring them about are very similar, unfortunately. So we are seeing a rising incidence of obesity, rising incidence of cancers, rising incidence of people with heart failures, people who've had surgeries, suppose surgery, so you tend to get a bit immobile, post surgery, so your risk is heightened because your trial and all sorts of factors have been activated. So clot formation then gets heightened. So that's also another worrying trend on the horizon. And also any ugly head as part of the spectrum of cardiovascular disease not just in Ghana, in Africa, but globally.
Okay. Doc, tell me about the Ghana Society of Cardiology.
Okay, so Ghana Society of Cardiology, an organization or a body that has been set up to increase awareness about cardiovascular health because you realize this globally and in keeping with the NCA, our numbers are not very different. The trend is not very different. So then it's made up of cardiologists, other healthcare professionals, people with interest in cardiology, but together to increase awareness, to advocate for cardiovascular health, and then to educate the populace, to increase awareness and consciousness about cardiovascular diseases in our setting because of the trends we are seeing. Yes.
World Heart Day, Dana Moye as a group.
Okay, so as a body in the World Heart Day, like as I'm here today, many of us have all sorts of media engagements. We're on various platforms, spreading the word, conscientizing people about cardiovascular health and the need to prioritize heart health, because we believe that the purpose of it, there's a tendency to abuse it.
Yeah.
So if you don't know why it's important to keep your heart healthier, obey your anyhow. A day set aside to educate us, to conscientize us, to spread the word, to screen, and then hopefully to influence policy about cardiovascular health in Ghana.
Yes. Now, cardiovascular health, cardiovascular diseases, the treatment, any care, expensive and tedious.
Okay, so when it comes to, our commonest risk factors, hypertension, diabetes, fortunately, most of the medication for treating them are covered under NHIS.
Okay.
It's just that, of course, with every medication, you have the branded type and then the generics. The generics are cheaper. On insurance, you can get made in Ghana ones, made in India ones, and the like. But if you want the branded ones now, of course, then that's a different conversation altogether. Branded drugs are very, very expensive. So, of course, it have an impact on finances. It has impact on family finances. So, the impacts in it are great. You can't just wish it away. But then, for the largest part, most of them are accessible.
Okay.
But it's just that recently with hyperinflation and all, the cost of, especially the branded drugs, it's become very pricey for patients to be able to keep up with.
Uncontrolled diabetes na ɛyɛ den ɛkyɛ sɛ nipa ne mfa na eduru anaasɛ den. Thank you.
So to answer the first question, say indro no diabetes indro a cause leading to erectile dysfunction. So what you need to understand is the very disease process called diabetes no and the man will develop erectile dysfunction.
Okay.
Because a cause at the microvascular level no it affects blood vessels in kitten na a feedy penis no. Okay, and then the other structures deeply embedded that control erection. No? So the very disease process
itself,
of diabetes,
the medication.
And then the microvascular dysfunction associated with it, no, and no nemao enya erectile dysfunction, and then hypertension too.
Okay.
So, I mean, the thing is, so what unfair draw cry. If we were left alone, the final common pathway is that you will end up there.
Okay.
Even without
medication. Okay.
And that is one thing he needs to understand. So, a lot of it, it's the very disease process. Because people come, we've had instances where people have come, like I mentioned earlier, or erectile dysfunction. We're screening on underlying it is some cardiovascular risk factor.
Okay.
So that is one. And then the second one, he was asking about type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Okay. So type 2 diabetes, he mentioned non-insulin dependent diabetes. That is not true.
Okay.
So it's not exactly right. It used to be a terminology I need to use in the past, but it is not so. There are type 2 diabetics who are insulin dependent. Okay. And then type 1, they are absolutely insulin dependent right from diagnosis. Okay. Pancreas, organ ketewa bi wɔ yɛ body ni yɛfrɛ no pancreas ɛno na ɛyɛ insulin. Diabetes comes about because insulin na ɛyɛ no is either too small. Okay. That is the type 1. It means you are making very little or no insulin at all. Okay. And we tend to diagnose it in much younger people. Okay. So you are making little or practically nothing. And then the type 2 it's what we call the lifestyle one. Okay. It tends to aggregate in families. It has like familial clustering too. Lifestyle, as we aggregate risk factors, as we gain weight, as hypertension plus other cardiovascular risk factors back together, our risk then increases. Okay. But we're able to tell them apart by your test to be some serological markers. But just by phenotypes, it will give you an idea. If you have a patient who is very young, who's presented with diabetes, a teenager or someone in their early 20s, the weight is ideal or you're slim, chances are it's a type 1. But you must still go on to do, there's a test we do to confirm that indeed there's a type 1. Or a type 1 now, it is insulin all the way. Okay. But type 2, depending on where you are, how bad your control is, you may be on insulin or you may be on oral agents or a combination of insulin and oral agents, depending on what we find.
Okay. Now, Moka say uncontrolled diabetes.
Okay. So, obi betimi awo diabetes or fanedro, but the numbers in yet. Just like obi wo BP or fanedro. So obe checking the BP will be 170 for the systolic, 180. You are taking your medication, but you are not controlled. Okay. And then someone with diabetes, you're on medication, you better check your sugar, you are double digits. You are 10, 11, 12. You are not hovering around 7 and below. Okay. And no, sir, it means that your control is poor, even though you're on medication.
No fault or be on patient in any, and I said then.
Also, it can be a combination. It can be a number of factors. Okay. So it could be, say, ABR. Fine, patient may not be compliant. ABR and a diet. Sometimes a lot of them, they don't pay attention to more diet because dietary indiscretions and so can affect our numbers. And then your weight. Maintaining an ideal weight. Then sometimes the problem may be from our side. ABI optimize the wardrobe into the dose achieve control. But in it's a process. Even if you are uncontrolled today, it doesn't mean you will stay uncontrolled forever. So long as you keep your visits, we'll keep titrating until we get you to the point now Well, sometimes it may even require that we change the medication you are on altogether.
Okay. Ahana yɛde ɛyɛ nkɔmmɔtwitwa ne bɛsi any final words a wopɛ sɛ wo ne yɛn share ansa wakɔ?
Yeah, so I'd like to emphasize hypertension is a killer. It's like the number one driver of cardiovascular disease in our part of the world. In as much as I was say you pay attention to all the other risk factors that I mentioned, no, please, let's check our numbers. Let's know what our blood pressures are. Let's know what our sugars are. Prevention is better than cure.
Thank you very much. Anopemini Dr. Shirley Wiafe, a physician specialist, cardiology fellow in training, and I actually come afa a year cardiovascular diseases in Hono. And come a very serious on come science a day. And I think say eventually, Isaac, we may have to bring Doc back here now on Sign Church and say be now for you to me be phone lines and it's if we be questions because me sure say I'm on 40 so into Doc and pay a better do have a wonderful day and weekend.